The distress call. The bridge of the Australian command vessel Serene Light had never been so quiet. High Commander Ilara Tin stood motionless before the central display, her luminescent skin dimmed with exhaustion as she watched the holographic representation of her people's territory. One by one, the gentle blue spheres representing Australian colonies flickered to angry red before dissolving to black. Gone. Each sphere represented millions of lives. How many ships remain operational in our defense fleet? Ilara asked, her melodic voice barely above a whisper. 22 vessels, High Commander, her second-in-command. Varan replied. His forearms moved rapidly across multiple control panels. The Crixian Armada has destroyed nearly 60% of our forces in less than a planetary cycle. Ilara's large, opalescent eyes closed briefly. The Australian cooperative had known peace for millennia. Their species had evolved on serene worlds with mild climates and minimal ecological competition. Their civilization rose on principles of harmony, scientific advancement, and cultural exchange. Their ships were designed primarily for exploration and research, only hastily retrofitted with defensive capabilities when the Crixians appeared at their borders with their militarized fleet. The evacuation vessels from New Haven Colony? Ilara asked, though she already suspected the answer. None have reported successful passage through the blockade. Viren confirmed, his voice tight. Ilara's slender fingers gripped the edge of her command console until they blanched from deep blue to pale lavender. Then we have no alternative, she said, turning to her communications specialist. Prepare the emergency beacon. Broadcast on all frequencies. The young officer's eyes widened in shock. High Commander, a general distress call would reach even the restricted zones. I am aware, Ilara said, straightening her posture. The silver insignia of her office caught the light. But if we don't receive assistance soon, the Australian people will cease to exist. She took a measured breath. Send it. The communications officer worked quickly, programming the automated distress call, a message that would repeat endlessly, traveling faster than light to every corner of the mapped galaxy. Message prepared, High Commander. Ilara inclined her head. Broadcast. 17 light-years away, at the edge of what the galactic community called restricted space, the signal reached the long-range sensors of Earth's orbital defense station Sentinel. Lieutenant Commander Maya Chen was halfway through her monitoring shift when the alert sounded. She adjusted her headset and frowned at the unusual pattern scrolling across her screen. Admiral Reeves, she called, I'm picking up an unusual signal pattern. Definitely artificial, but doesn't match any known human transmission protocols. Admiral James Reeves moved to her station, his weathered face reflecting in the blue glow of the monitors. Source: the Proxima Centauri sector, Maya answered, tapping several commands. It's repeating. Some kind of automated message. Reeves's expression hardened. Run it through the quantum translation matrix. Maya nodded, transferring the signal to the AI systems below. Earth had been monitoring alien communications for decades, building translation algorithms despite never having direct contact with extraterrestrial intelligence. The computer worked for several minutes before text began scrolling across her screen. Sir, Maya said quietly, it's a distress call. Reeves read the message, then reached for the communication panel. Get me Fleet Commander Vega. Now. Admiral Elena Vega stood at the head of the polished obsidian table in Sentinel Station's main conference room. The projected star map showed the location of the signal's origin. The room hummed with urgent conversations among the 15 members of Earth's Security Council. This could be our opportunity, said General Santos. First contact on our terms. Or a trap, countered Director Kasembi of Intelligence. Why would they suddenly call for help when they've quarantined our system and labeled us a death world for centuries? Admiral Vega studied the signal analysis. Because they're desperate, she said simply. The translation is clear. They're facing extinction. Not our concern, said Secretary Zhang. The galactic community made themselves clear when they quarantined our system and classified us as Deathworlders. Captain Nathan Hernandez spoke up from his seat. As commander of Earth's most advanced warship, the ESV Valkyrie, his opinion carried significant weight. With respect, Secretary, that's precisely why we should respond, he said. They see us as dangerous because we evolved on a high-gravity planet with extreme weather patterns and predators. But those same adaptations make us uniquely qualified to help. Vega nodded slowly. The question isn't whether we can help. It's whether we should. The room fell silent as all eyes turned to the president's representative. Ambassador Lin considered her words carefully. Humanity has dreamed of reaching the stars for generations, she said finally. Now, our first contact with alien intelligence is a cry for help. How we respond will define us to the galactic community. She looked at Vega. Prepare a response fleet. We're going. Vega straightened. Yes, Madam Ambassador. She turned to Captain Hernandez. Get the Valkyrie ready. You'll lead the expedition. As the meeting dispersed, Vega looked once more at the alien distress signal pulsing rhythmically on the screen. Somewhere out there, a peaceful species was fighting for survival. They had called for help from anyone who would listen. They were about to meet the Deathworlders. The massive hangar of Sentinel Station buzzed with activity as dawn broke over Earth below. Crews worked tirelessly, loading supplies and weapons onto transport ships bound for the 5 warships chosen for the mission. Captain Nathan Hernandez walked alongside the gleaming hull of the Valkyrie. At 800 meters long, the battle cruiser represented humanity's most advanced warship, built for extended deep space operations far from support. Captain on deck called his executive officer, Commander Sofia Rodriguez, as he approached the loading ramp. At ease, Nathan said. Status report. Supplies at 96% capacity, weapons systems fully operational, and crew at 100% readiness, Sofia replied, passing him a tablet. We're ahead of schedule. Nathan nodded, scanning the report. And the Marine contingent. Major Coleman has them running final drills in the combat simulator. They're adapting the training scenarios based on the limited intel we have about the Crixians. Which isn't nearly enough, said a voice behind them. Nathan turned to see Dr. Amara Okafor, the fleet's Sino-intelligence specialist, approaching with a concerned expression. Her uniform was wrinkled, suggesting she'd worked through the night. Walk with me, Nathan said, gesturing toward his ship. Once inside the quiet corridor, Amara spoke in a low voice. I've been analyzing the intercepted transmissions from the past 14 months. The Australians and other species have a name for humans, the Forbidden Ones, and they call Earth a death world. We knew that much, Nathan replied. Yes, but I've discovered why. Amara handed him a data tablet. According to their classification system, Earth has gravity 34% stronger than standard habitable planets, atmospheric oxygen levels they consider toxic, and temperature variations they find extreme. Not to mention our bacteria, viruses, and predator species. Nathan studied the data. So we're monsters to them, just by existing. It gets worse, Amara said. The attacking force, these Crixians, they're predatory but evolved on a world with only 1/8 of Earth's gravity. They rely on exoskeletons and technology to compensate. Nathan stopped walking. You're saying both sides of this conflict are physically weaker than humans. Significantly. The Australians evolved as peaceful photosynthesizers on garden worlds. The Crixians are predators, but would be crushed by Earth's gravity without their support suits. A slow smile spread across Nathan's face. Thank you, Doctor. This changes our approach. 2 hours later, the Terran Security Council reconvened for a final briefing before launch. Admiral Vega displayed the latest intelligence on the main screen. The response fleet will consist of 5 ships, she explained. The Valkyrie will lead, with the cruisers Defiance, Intrepid, and Challenger providing support. The medical vessel Mercy will handle evacuation and humanitarian operations. General Santos frowned. Only 5 ships. The Crixians reportedly have dozens. Quality over quantity, Nathan replied. Based on Dr. Okafor's analysis, We believe our ships and personnel have significant advantages that both sides in this conflict lack. Dr. Okafor stepped forward. The aliens were dealing with evolved-on worlds with lower gravity, milder climates, and fewer pathogens. Humans are naturally adapted to conditions they find extreme. In other words, said Captain Lai of the Defiance, we're the monsters under their beds. Not monsters, Admiral Vega corrected. Potential saviors. But we need to understand how we'll be perceived. Nathan addressed the room. When we arrive, we'll face beings who fear us simply because of where we evolved. But that fear can work in our favor if used properly. Ambassador Lin stood. This mission has 3 objectives. Establish first contact, protect the Australians from genocide, and secure humanity's place in the galactic community. The manner in which you accomplish these goals is up to you, Captain Hernandez. Nathan nodded. We'll be ready to launch in 1 hour. As the meeting concluded, Nathan found himself standing beside Dr. Okafor at the observation window. Below them, Earth rotated slowly, blue oceans and green continents shimmering in sunlight. Strange, isn't it? Immerse said quietly. The world that made us so tough is beautiful from up here. Nathan watched as the first rays of dawn spread across North America. Let's hope we remember that when we're out there. Being strong doesn't mean we can't also be kind. An hour later, the 5 ships of humanity's first contact fleet rose from Earth orbit, accelerating toward the jump point that would take them to answer an alien cry for help. First contact, human style. The 5 ships of Earth's response fleet moved through the shimmering corridor of jump space, a swirling tunnel of blue-black energy that allowed them to travel faster than light. Inside the Valkyrie's bridge, Captain Nathan Hernandez watched the ship's chronometer counting down the remaining travel time. 6 days until we reach Australian space, he said. How are the crew holding up? Lieutenant Sato, his communications specialist, looked up from her console. Morale is high, Captain. Everyone understands what's at stake. Nathan nodded and turned to the tactical display where Major Diane Coleman was running combat simulations. The Marine commander's face was focused as she moved virtual troops across various battlefield scenarios. Any insights, Major? Nathan asked. Diane gestured to the display. Based on Dr. Okafor's intel, the Crixians rely heavily on technology to compensate for their physical limitations. Their battle tactics are rigid, designed around their exoskeletons and support systems. And how do we counter that? Diane smiled. Unpredictability. Humans are naturally adaptable. We can function in environments that would shut down their systems. Plus, we've simulated combat in the lower gravity we'll encounter. Our Marines can move 3 times faster than on Earth. Good, Nathan said. Keep running the drills. He left the bridge and made his way to engineering, where Chief Engineer Raj Patel was working with his team on the ship's weapon systems. Captain, Raj greeted him, wiping sweat from his forehead. At just 34, he was considered the best systems engineer in the fleet. We've made some adjustments based on the alien technology data, he said, pointing to a disassembled railgun. We've calibrated our weapons for precision rather than raw power. The Crixian ships have excellent shields but poor structural integrity. One well-placed shot could disable a ship twice our size. Will it be enough? Nathan asked. We're still outnumbered. Numbers aren't everything, Raj said with confidence. Their ships are designed for fights against similar opponents. We're something new entirely. In the medical bay, Dr. Amara Okafor carefully studied tissue samples under a microscope. The ship's AI had created synthetic versions of Australian and Crixian biology based on the limited data available. Fascinating, she muttered as Nathan entered. What have you found? He asked. Amara looked up. The Australians have almost no immune system. Their home planets have so few pathogens that they never evolved one. And the Crixians. She pointed to another slide. Their cellular structure would collapse under Earth's gravity. They'd literally be crushed by their own weight. Is that useful to us? Amara nodded. Very. I'm developing non-lethal countermeasures. We could potentially incapacitate Crixian troops with simple Earth bacteria that are harmless to humans. Perfect, Nathan said. We want to stop them, not commit genocide. In the ship's mess hall, Nathan found linguist Dr. Layla Hassan surrounded by audio equipment. The young communications expert had been working nonstop, trying to decode more of the Australian language. Any progress? He asked, sitting across from her. Layla played a series of sounds. Their language is based on harmonic patterns rather than distinct words. I've managed to identify basic greetings and emergency commands. She handed him a small device. This translator should allow basic communication. Good work, Nathan said. Keep at it. As he left the mess hall, the ship's alarm sounded briefly. Nathan tapped his comm unit. Bridge, report. Captain, came the response. We're detecting unusual energy readings from jump space. Something's following us. Nathan hurried back to the bridge. The main screen showed swirling patterns of jump space with a faint distortion trailing behind their fleet. Analysis, he demanded. The science officer looked up with concern. Unknown ship signature, but it's definitely tracking us. And it's faster than anything in our database. Alert the fleet, Nathan ordered. Battle stations. Prepare to exit jump space if necessary. As the crew rushed to their positions, Nathan stared at the screen. They were still days away from Australian space, but it seemed the war might find them first. Identify yourself, he broadcast into the void. This is Captain Nathan Hernandez of the Earth vessel Valkyrie. There was no response, but the distortion grew larger. Weapons ready, he ordered quietly. Let's see who's come to meet the Deathworlders. The mysterious distortion in jump space vanished as suddenly as it had appeared. After 24 tense hours, Captain Hernandez finally ordered the crew to stand down from battle stations. Whatever it was, it's gone now, he told his officers. Or hiding. Either way, we continue as planned. 6 days later, the human fleet emerged from jump space into the Australian system. The scene that greeted them made even veteran officers pause in shock. The space around Lumeria, the main Australian colony world, was a graveyard of broken ships. Orbital stations lay in ruins, debris forming chaotic rings around the blue-green planet. Through this destruction, Crixian warships moved methodically, their black hulls absorbing starlight as they bombarded the surface. Tactical assessment, Nathan ordered. 32 Crixian warships in orbit, replied Lieutenant Commander Park. 4 Australian vessels still fighting but heavily damaged. Planetary defense systems offline. Ground-based sensors detect heavy fighting in the main population centers. Nathan straightened his uniform. Open a channel to all ships in the system. Channel open, Captain. This is Captain Nathan Hernandez of the Earth vessel Valkyrie. We have responded to the Australian distress call and offer assistance. All hostilities should cease immediately. For a long moment, there was silence. Then 2 responses came almost simultaneously. First, a visual transmission from an Australian ship. The commander appeared thin and exhausted, her luminescent skin dimmed, and her large eyes wide with disbelief. Earth vessel. The translator conveyed her melodic voice, trembling with emotion. The forbidden ones have come. We did not believe, did not expect. Before Nathan could respond, a second transmission cut in. A Crixian commander appeared on screen, his rigid exoskeleton gleaming with embedded technology. His voice was harsh and mechanical through the translator. Unidentified vessels, this conflict is not your concern. Leave this system immediately or be destroyed. Nathan smiled thinly. We're not leaving, and this is now our concern. We've responded to a legal distress call under Galactic Convention. The Crixian commander's mechanical eyes narrowed. You have been warned. Your primitive vessels are no match for our armada. The transmission cut off abruptly. Immediately, 12 Crixian warships broke from their positions and moved toward the human fleet, their weapons charging. They're targeting us, Lieutenant Commander Park reported. Shields at maximum, Nathan ordered. Target their lead vessels. Precision strikes, as Engineer Pottle recommended. The space between the fleets lit up as the Crixian ships fired first, energy beams cutting across the darkness. The Valkyrie shuddered as multiple impacts hit its shields. Shields holding at 86%, reported the tactical officer with surprise. Those hits would have crippled most ships according to our data. Return fire, Nathan commanded. Show them what Deathworlders can do. The Valkyrie's main guns fired, the specialized rail cannons launching projectiles at a fraction of light speed. The first shot struck a Crixian cruiser precisely where Raj had calculated its structural weakness would be. The alien ship didn't just take damage. It split completely in half, secondary explosions rippling through both sections. Direct hit, Park reported as the bridge crew stared in amazement. Enemy vessel destroyed. The human fleet moved forward, firing with precision, while the Crixians responded with increasingly desperate salvos. "Captain," came a call from communications. "The Australian commander is hailing us again." The blue alien appeared on screen, her expression one of shock. How are your ships withstanding their weapons? We lost 15 vessels to those same attackers. We're built differently, Nathan replied simply. Can your remaining ships still fight? Yes, but... Then follow our lead. Target the coordinates we're sending you. Focus your remaining firepower there. As the battle intensified, Nathan ordered a tactical maneuver no alien ship could perform, diving toward the planet's atmosphere, using its gravity well to accelerate the Valkyrie in a slingshot movement that brought it behind 3 Crixian destroyers. Fire all port-side batteries, he ordered. The results were devastating. 2 enemy ships exploded immediately, while the third spun helplessly, its propulsion system destroyed. "Captain," called Lieutenant Sato from communications, "I'm picking up transmissions from the surface. The Australian ground forces are being overrun in the northern continent." Nathan nodded. "Inform Major Coleman to prepare her Marines for immediate drop. The Valkyrie will create a gap in their blockade." He turned to the view screen, watching as the Crixian fleet regrouped. For the first time in this war, the attackers seemed uncertain. They'd never faced humans before. Nathan said quietly, "Let's make sure they remember this day." Major Diane Coleman felt the drop pod vibrate as it punched through Lumeria's atmosphere. Inside the cramped space, 20 Marines checked their equipment one final time. "Remember your training," she said over the comm. "The gravity here is only 0.7 Earth standard. You'll jump higher and fall slower than you're used to. The Crixians have superior technology, but their exoskeletons are vulnerable at the joints. And watch out for the civilians. Australians are physically fragile compared to us." The pod's computer counted down to landing. 30 seconds to touchdown. Prepare for deployment. The Marines braced themselves. When the pod doors blasted open, they emerged into chaos. The alien city was a marvel of crystalline spires and flowing architecture, now partially in ruins. Crixian ground forces moved through the streets, their mechanical exoskeletons gleaming. They towered over the fleeing Australians, nearly 3 meters tall with multiple limbs ending in energy weapons. "Fire Team Alpha, secure that evacuation center," Coleman ordered. "Bravo with me. We're taking out those heavy weapon emplacements." The Marines moved with a speed and agility that seemed impossible to the watching aliens. In Earth's higher gravity, humans had evolved powerful muscles and dense bones. Here, they could leap 5 meters in a single bound, their reactions faster than the Crixian targeting systems could track. Sergeant Lee vaulted over a fallen column, firing his rifle with precision. 3 Crixians fell, their exoskeletons sparking as the specialized rounds penetrated their shields. "They're adapting," he called over the comm, as the alien troops began to focus their fire, changing their shield frequencies. "Then we adapt faster," Coleman replied, signaling her squad to switch to projectile weapons. The Crixians had advanced energy shields, but they'd never encountered simple kinetic weapons, bullets. designed by a species that had spent millennia perfecting ways to kill. Across the city, human drop pods continued to land. The Crixian forces found themselves facing an enemy unlike any they'd fought before. Where Australians would retreat, humans charge. Where other species would be overwhelmed by the Crixians' technological superiority, humans simply found the weaknesses and exploited them. In orbit, the battle had turned decidedly in humanity's favor. The Valkyrie led a coordinated attack that shattered the Crixian formation. The surviving Australian ships, following Captain Hernandez's tactics, disabled 3 more enemy vessels. The Crixian flagship is changing course, Park reported. They're withdrawing. Nathan watched as the massive alien vessel began accelerating away from the planet, followed by its remaining escorts. They're running, he said. Open a channel. The Crixian commander appeared on screen again, his mechanical voice now tinged with what might have been fear. What manner of beings are you? Just humans, Nathan replied. Born on a world you call forbidden, evolved to survive what you consider impossible. We're offering you one chance. Leave Australian space permanently or face extinction. Your choice. The Crixian was silent for a long moment. We will withdraw, but the galactic community will hear of this interference. Good, Nathan said. Make sure they hear all of it. How the Deathworlders came when called. How we offered you mercy even after your attempted genocide. The transmission ended. On the tactical display, the Crixian fleet accelerated to jump coordinates, leaving the system. Captain Sato called. Major Coleman reports the ground situation is stabilizing. The remaining Crixian forces are surrendering or retreating. Nathan nodded. Have Dr. Okafor prepare to beam down with the medical teams. The Mercy should begin evacuation of the most severely wounded. Hours later, Nathan stood in the crystalline council chamber of Lumeria's central city. High Commander Ilara Tin approached him, her luminescent skin now glowing with renewed strength. Captain Hernandez, she said, her translator converting her melodic tones, the Australian people owe you a debt we can never repay. You came when no others would. Nathan inclined his head slightly. We came because it was the right thing to do. No species deserves extinction. The Australian council members murmured among themselves. One stepped forward. We must acknowledge our error, he said. For centuries, we avoided Earth, labeling it and its inhabitants as dangerous. Today, that very danger saved us. Not danger, Nathan corrected gently. Strength. There's a difference. Ilara nodded. A distinction we failed to recognize. The quarantine of Earth was a mistake born of fear. Fear of differences we did not understand. And now? Nathan asked. Now, I will personally bring this matter before the Galactic Council. Earth's quarantine status must end. Humanity has earned its place among the stars. As Nathan prepared to return to his ship, Ilara accompanied him to the transport pad. There is one thing I do not understand, she said. Your species evolved in harsh conditions that would kill most sentient beings. You could have conquered rather than helped. Why choose mercy? Nathan looked out at the alien city, where human medics worked alongside Australian healers, treating the wounded of both species. Because adversity teaches you the value of compassion, he said. When you know suffering, you understand the importance of preventing it in others. Earth wasn't just a death world. It was a teacher. Ilara's large eyes studied him thoughtfully. Perhaps that is the lesson all of us needed to learn. As the transport beam activated, Nathan smiled. It won't be the last lesson humanity has to share with the stars. The Deathworlders had arrived on the galactic stage, not as conquerors or monsters, but as guardians, and the galaxy would never be the same.